What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another First Impressions review video here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Satisfactory here in early access stage, obviously, as you can see right below the name there. A game made by Coffee Stain Studios. Just before we start, tremendous studio. I'm a huge fan of Coffee Stain Studios and their games and their publishing as well. They are a terrific studio and publisher. They have obviously made Satisfactory, as I just said. Games like Songs of Conquest was also them. Deep Rock Galactic, I know for a fact they at least published. So they have a lot of great games under their umbrella there. If I'm missing out on any games, I apologize, but I don't remember any off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's a great company. These guys over at Coffee Stains and all the studios they work with as well do great work. They make some fantastic games and really interesting games as well. So yeah, with the Coffee Stains Studios shout out of the way, let's dive into my first impressions of Satisfactory in early access. As of the current update is update 7. See the patch notes over here. Version 0.7.11. As of July 9th, 2023. That's the current version of the game we're in right now. And yeah, so first impressions of Satisfactory are almost entirely good. I don't have much to gripe about here. It's definitely a very well polished game and very fun and interesting game already in this early access stage here. So I think just because it's going to be the most of the video, let's get any minor gripes out of the way before we get into, I think, the ocean of positive, compliments I have for this game so far. The only very minor, and I can't stress how mainly insignificant and minor this detail is, but I just wanted to throw it out there, is this is a game that I don't want to say it has a learning curve, because that implies that there's like much more to it than there really is, but it takes a minute to get into and set everything else and kind of optimize it. But also that kind of leads into the beauty and the optimization of the game, which is a big part of it. So really it's just kind of a hit or miss thing depending on the person more than it is a negative outright. And yeah, that's kind of segues into my only other minor gripe here, which is, while I enjoy this game, and it seems like the community everyone is seemingly loving this game from all the feedback they're getting in early access as of now, loves this game. This is a game that might not be for every individual, but then again, what game is? Everyone has their flavors of stuff they like and everything. It's just, it's a game, it's an optimization game, kind of a tycoon, factory building game, optimization game here. It's not, a grand, there's not some overarching like grand scheme or, plot point or story. There's not some shooter and tons of action or anything necessarily. There is some action, but, so yeah. I mean, just be aware of the type of game you're buying, but I'm not going to hold that against it, because that's every game, Whether you're reviewing a COD, just someone might not like shooters or arcade shooters, so that's every game. You can't really help it. So it's not really a gripe, just kind of a warning tag, I guess. But even if you aren't a fan of this genre of game, I'd still almost, I want to say this kind of the end of the video, but I'd still recommend at least looking into the game, because it's, it speaks for itself with the praise and the reviews and the content that's put out. But it's an amazing game. So yeah, let's get into now the overwhelming sea of good here we have to talk about here. What isn't? I mean, there's just where do you want to start here? I mean, the graphics look good. The world building is really cool. All the different, if you go into new game here, all the different areas and worlds you can, land on and factorize, are all amazing. They're all different. They're all unique in the different ways here, and these different biomes you can see here. Obviously, it looks amazing graphics wise. It runs well for a game like this. The soundtrack, I know I don't play music over most of these videos, but the soundtrack is spectacular as well. It fits into the game very well. there's a lot of options as far as which type of biome, what type of world you're gonna get in, what type of resources are gonna be around you. There's a lot of replayability because not every one game is going to be the same. So yeah, it's just they've done a great job with that. Another thing which I wholeheartedly enjoy here, the multiplayer, of course. Always throw that out there in most games like this. I am a huge fan that they've added multiplayer into this game because there's no game where, even if it's the worst game you've ever played, there's no game where if you're not playing with somebody you like or a friend or whatever, family, that it doesn't make it better and more enjoyable and interesting an experience to go through. So I applaud them for adding multiplayer into a game like this, which is something they probably didn't need to if they didn't want to, honestly, given the type of game it is. But I always commend that. And yeah, that's always a great feature to add in there. So yeah, as far as so we got a lot of the technical stuff out of the way. The game plays well. It runs very smoothly. The diagrams are cool. The graphics are cool. The user interface is very well put together. The icons are well put together. There's really nothing to gripe about in that area of regard to really do. And then I'll play some early stuff here. I don't want to spoil too much of it. But just, I like to play an early level stuff because this is a first impressions video after all. I have not completed the game or the entire playthrough, got into as much as you could, and I don't like spoiling the games regardless. But yeah, the user interface is very well put together. It's a very cool kind of graphic style and kind of altogether theme they put together with this game. It's very well put together. So yeah, as far as gameplay goes, the main aspect of the game, obviously, you're basically a guy, kind of an engineer, or if you will, from, as you can see here, engineer and construction guy. You're basically landing in on these alien planets, as this is slowly explaining as I'm recording over this. You're basically landing in on these alien planets. Of course, there's different worlds, different environments, different resource types. There's a lot of stuff involved in this, and you're landing on these planets, and you're setting up, basically, as you can see here, these factories across the planet to gather resources, process resources, and then make items with those resources. And you want to basically make these items that these company that is sending you down here, fix it. As you can see over there on the left, fix it wants you to gather and produce, and your job is to basically set up a factory, gather those resources, and make the most efficient and optimized factory that you can to collect those resources on the planet that you're on, and kind of build this. The end goal is to build this kind of giant mega factory that's as optimized and efficient as you can get it, as well as productive and big and large scale, and consuming and producing as many resources and items as you can get it to. That's really the end goal there. And you might ask yourself, like, that kind of sounds like Factorio, or that kind of sounds like kind of a grind, kind of boring to do. Like, why would anyone want to? Why would anyone want to do that? It doesn't seem that fun. It seems kind of niche at best. And from a glance, I would agree with you. It does. But Satisfactory does a great job of making kind of this niche gameplay loop and system. It does a good job making it somehow fun to work, almost. Because at a base level, you really are just kind of a factory and construction worker and builder. It's kind of like you're working to build a factory. That's kind of the game. It's kind of like a tycoon builder thing at best. And it's really interesting because, I don't know, it just you wouldn't think the game would be fun until you play it and get into the game. Then it's like, they do a really good job of making things interesting, making the world awesome so you want to be in it. And then it's just the amount of items you can do, the amount of stuff you can mess around with, the amount of layouts you can get on a base once you build it. The amount of stuff you can always optimize something more. You can always add something on. There's always a different environment to factorize. There's just so much to do, and there's so much interesting things to do that it just, I mean, it makes everything worth it, and it makes it interesting enough to keep your attention and keep you going and kind of grinding. Like it's a game you can almost get lost in, like a comfort game, almost like a Slime Rancher. On a base level, Slime Rancher shouldn't be as fun or interesting as it is, but it's just addictive, and it's just you get into a loop like you do in this when you're building your factory and upscaling and making stuff more efficient. It's just it's great. I mean, they've done a fantastic job with it. I know, obviously, here all you've seen me do, and you don't really have a base here yet, as you're still going through the tutorial. But I mean, it is a great gameplay. And then there's also some challenges because there's animals that will try to kill you. Here, as I just pulled this out, this is kind of your main base level defense here. Your Xeno Zapper that kind of prods and zaps any hostile enemies or aliens away. So there's more to this game even than just the factory aspect of it. So yeah, I mean they've done a terrific job. They've done a terrific job of putting this game together, and it's just an early access. Like this isn't even a full release game. Somehow, I mean, it has more content than a lot of full release games, especially nowadays, that you might see, which really makes things interesting. So yeah, I mean they've done a terrific job with this game. It is one of the more interesting games you'll come across. It is, I mean, it's definitely unique in its own right, even though people just call it kind of 3D Factorio, which isn't completely wrong, I suppose, but at the same time, it's so much more than that. It really has its own thing going on, other than just being a 3D Factorial. It looks better, plays better, has more I mean, I'm not dissing Factorio. It's a terrific game in its own right. It's just, this is so much more than just 3D Factorio. Even if at a core gameplay element, they're kind of similar. So it's like Minecraft and Terraria, that type of debate, or like COD versus Battlefield and Halo. It's like, yeah, they're very similar games. They're in the same category. They play somewhat similar, but they're different stuff with different things and different aspects. So yeah, I mean, overall, just to wrap everything up, again, some minor gripes I went over at the start. I'm not even going to mention them again, just how insignificant they are. And then, I mean, I've mentioned a flood of good things. The graphics, the music, the world building, the different zones, the replayability and the uniqueness. The gameplay loop that's, addictive almost and fun, trying to optimize and push your factory and what you can think of to the limits, and how efficient and large scale and, productive you can be. I mean, it's just, you can get lost in this type of stuff. These games are done a tremendous job, and they're only adding more stuff and more gameplay features to this as it progresses through early access and eventually into a full launch and beyond that, of course. So yeah, I mean, they've done a terrific job with this game. I can't praise them enough. So yeah, that's the overall kind of thoughts there as far as Satisfactory early access goes, the first impression. Now it's time for the buy recommendation, the game score. Buy recommendation. I know it's an early access, people are always skeptical of these games, but for me, the buy recommendation, this is a highly recommended buy. I can't stress this enough, but this is a highly recommended buy, a strong buy, especially now that the game during the Steam Summer Sale will be on sale for the duration, and I'm sure if you watch this at a different time, it might be on sale for a different time. It's just a tremendous game. It's a strong buy. Highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough. For really all the entire Coffee Stains catalog. As far as a game score goes, 0 to 10, all know the rules here. This is an interesting thing because, it's a hard decision to make, not in a bad way at all, obviously, in a very good way, obviously. because it's one of those games where, like, I know I mentioned a few minor, very minor stuff at the start, but it's like there's so many positives and there's so much to look forward to here, and it all looks good. I mean, it's one of those games where I mean, it's there's really, I mean, as far as the game it's supposed to be, it's almost the perfect game for what it's supposed to be. And what that means in my mind is, that means for the game it's shooting for for the content it's trying to go for. I think it's kind of the perfect game. I don't really think there's anything wrong with it. I think it plays well. Um, I think the worst parts about this game are at worst, above average in this regards to the industry. This is a terrific game so far. It's a very fun game. Yes, it could be viewed as a slightly niche game, but even then, I mean, I feel like any type of gamer in general would like this game, as long as you have access to it. This isn't a game I don't really see. I don't really see a lot of people disliking, regardless of the type of games you like. So yeah, again, getting back to the game score, I think I'm gonna give it, out of 10. I think I'm gonna give Satisfactory in an early access state the highest score I've given as of yet on the first impressions, or just a review in general. Um, I think as of now, and I think this is something that's going to maintain through the time of early access and in the full release. I think I'm going to give Satisfactory a perfect 10 out of 10 score for its game score 0 to 10. This game, I mean, it really blows it out of the park for what it's going for here. And in every regard, it looks good. I mean, there's really nothing to complain about here, even though I mentioned the very small gripes at the start. I mean, there's nothing like I can't take any points away. I can't justify it. I mean, for the game, for what it's trying to go for what it does, for what type of game it is, it knocks out of the park. And it's only in early access. It's only going to get better from here. Knock on wood, it's terrific. I can't rationalize giving this, if this is only a 9 or an 8 or 9.5 or a 7.5 or whatever score you could have given it. What is a 10, especially for this category and genre of game? What is a 10? Factorio maybe? But I think that's a little more dated and 2D. I mean, I think it beats Factorio as far as in most regards. So I mean, this is a 10. I don't see an example of a game like this that's better than it or even equal to it at this point. So yeah, that wraps up this first impressions of Satisfactory here. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed that review. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you did or enjoyed this channel's content and theme as a whole. It really helps. Everything helps. Even your viewership. I'm grateful for that. Comment down below if you have Satisfactory, what you think of Satisfactory, if you're looking into it, or just anything you want. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.